and we fit it right into the slider groove, the bracket, and then we start putting our boots on and then our slider. We put the grease on, then we put our slider through. See, it's supposed to slide side to side like this. So, but we have to put the boots on, the dust boots on, before we put the guide on. So we put them on. So now what we do is we put our dust boot in, and as you can see, both of them are the same, but they have one side which goes into the guide or the bracket, and the other side is where the slide is gonna be at. So we fit it one end first in an angle, and then we start working it in. Once it's in, we make sure it's rounded. We put our finger in and make sure that that part that is this part that is in the bracket is not crushed like this, like that, so it's rounded against the wall of the bracket. So once we do that, we put the other one on this side. So now all we have left to do is we just gotta put our slider through, and then we'll put some grease in there a little bit, so when it pushes in through, it goes with grease all the way to the other side, and then we'll clean the excessive grease off. And then these ends are gonna fall into these grooves. You see that groove right there? That end is gonna have to fall right there, and that end is gonna have to fall into that groove, so it seals. Now that you have put your boots on and then your slider through, and now we clean the excessive grease, but I'm showing you how it's supposed to slide. This is what makes your brakes to wear out even, and sometimes if the brakes get stuck, it might create vibration. And this is because your brakes are getting stuck because of this. So you want to keep this lubricated as well when you do brakes replacement. So now we do the other side, and then we put everything back together. But this is very important. So when it's bolted on, this is how the bolt will go through, bolt on to the bracket, and then your bolt will hold that against the caliper bracket, and the caliper will slide side to side freely. And that's how it controls the even wear of your brakes. So this will be solid and the caliper will be sliding. That's why they call them sliders. So we'll take care of the other side, and we'll start putting it back on once we replace our brake pads too. Okay folks, so now that we have our sliders lubricated and we got them to slide, both of them, this is how they should operate, slide freely. Now we can compress our piston back in so we can start putting our brakes back on. So now what we do, we start compressing it with our C-clamp. We gotta compress the piston back in, and this is the easiest way. And then you just gotta be careful, gotta do it slow. So we compress it so everything fits right here. The brake pads and the rotor and other brake pad everything has to fit within this opening, so that's why we're compressing the piston back in, so we start fresh. So what we want, folks, is that we want to compress that piston back in where it's flush with the structure. Sometimes they might not be flush, but most of the time they come in all the way in to where they're flush with the structure of the caliper. So that's what we want, as you can see. So everything, when we put it on, everything falls right in without problems. So the new brake pads come with these little tabs and pieces of metals that they go into the structure before we put the brake pads in. So what we do is we take the old ones out and we put the new ones in. This is not needed, but I'm taking this off so I can show you where the brackets or the new metals that come with it have to go in. So there's this, there's that one, there's one right here, there's another one that we just took out, and we're gonna take them out and we're gonna clean this bracket, but it's not needed. And these tabs, all you have to do is you gotta just pull them out of there. Be careful because they're sharp, they're hard, and then you can cut yourself, but just pretty much they're just pressed in. I'm just gonna clean this out and then we'll put everything back on. Okay folks, so now we just cleaned it. It wasn't perfect, but we cleaned it out. So we're gonna put the little tabs that go here, one here, and here. There's 4 per each side. So that's where the brake pads are gonna slide in and lock. So we're gonna put them on. So now we put these little sheet metals into the grooves, and that's how they have to face this. And we put them on like that. That's how they have to fit. So this wasn't required. You don't have to take them out, the bracket. But if you want to take them out, you can. It's easier to work away from the rotor and trying to remove all those tabs. And if you want to clean them and clean the bracket and put it back on with all the new tabs, and then if you need to remove your rotor, this is the way to do it. You gotta remove this to remove the rotor, because otherwise this is the cage that keeps the rotor from coming out. There's 2 17mm bolts, 1, 2, that holds the bracket into the suspension. So that's how it come out. This wasn't required, but I did it to show you. Well, now we're about to put our brake pads. So what I do is first I rub them against each other so I get the uneven surface off, whatever is dust, and clean them. So if there's any little rocks or anything attached to him, they come off, and now I can start with the smooth surface on the brake pad. So now we put them on. So now we're ready to put our brake pad. So we put the inside one in, and then we slide the outside one, and then we present it and push it in, and that's how our brake pads sit. This is how both brake pads go in. You put them in, and then this tab gets pushed down, and then you slide the brake pad into that groove. So this keeps pressure into the brake pad always. So this is how you push and you slide it in, and that's how it keeps pressure. So to bring it out, you just slide it out, easy as that. So that's how they get secure. So now we just put our brake pad caliper on. So now we have our brake pads on, and if your brake pad kit comes with these little wires, they go on the brake pads on the top right here. They go 1 and 2 from one brake pad to another, and then over here from one brake pad to another. And what that does is when you brake, you push the brake, you push them together, and then once you release the brake, that helps to spread them away from the rotor so they're not always touching. They're physically there, but it's acting as a shock. It's spreading them apart. So you see the opening, that other opening, you put them in, you put them on the other one. So when you press the brake, then you release, and it keeps them open. It's a sort of a spring that keeps them open. So now what's next is we can put our caliper back on top of these brake pads, and we already have our little wires or springs, and we can put everything back on. Now that we have put our wires on, we put our piston over it. So we did it like this. We press our brakes together, and we press them, and we slide the caliper over them. And then now we just gotta put our bolts on. And well, folks, so now we have replaced the brake pads. We lubricated our sliders, and then we changed one of the brake boots. Now we tighten everything. Everything's back to normal. So what we do is we turn our wheel, we put our tire back on, and then we put our lug nuts on, we tighten them, and that should be almost the process of replacing or maintenance to our brake pads on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. And for this car, we did it on one side. We replaced the brake pads on one side, and what you do to one side, you do to the other side. And you always want to keep one side complete, so in case you need reference, that's why you want to go back and forth in case you get confused. So you keep one side, you do maintenance to one side, while you working on that side, you have a reference on the other side, or vice versa. And then once you're done, you should be good to go. And then that's why you want to keep just one side at a time. What you do to one side, you're gonna do to the other side, but take care of one side first. So now that we have done with our brake systems, we have replaced both sides. We cover our master cylinder, and then we go and turn on our car, and then we start pressing slowly our brake pedal, so the fluid starts going to the brake cylinders, and then the pistons get pushed out and they get set to where they need to be. So now we start our car and press our brakes. And well, folks, this was an idea how we did or how we replaced the brake pads, the front brake pads on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. And this is the same procedure for a 95 to a 99, but this is concentrated for a 91 to a 94. And one thing I want to say is that, like we said on the beginning of the video, we show you how we lubricated the sliders, because when you're braking and if one slider on the one side is drier than the other and it's not sliding, you might create that the brake pad is going to wear uneven surface, or sometimes they get stuck to the rotor, and that's what creates vibration as well. So you want to make sure when you replace the brake pads, you want to do some lubrication to those sliders, so you got a fresh and good braking system when you need it. So with that said, hopefully this video was useful and will give you an idea how to do this maintenance. And if you like it, give us a thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here on el canal Chano Jose.